How's it going, everybody? It's the Sketch Monkey here with a completely new sketching video for you. And in this video, I think you're gonna like this one because we're gonna talk about something I love and I'm sure probably 95% of people who watch my channel love, and that is obviously car sketching. So the number one question that I get from you guys is how to sketch cars, and specifically, are there any tips or tricks to get the car right in proportions? And yeah, of course there are, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. So I'm gonna try to keep it very, very simple. So I'm gonna use this guy right here, and I'm sure you all know what this is. It's the big round stick and some cheap print paper that I have somewhere around here. And then we're just gonna jump into it. And I'm gonna show you a few tricks on how to get the car right in perspective and in proportion. So let's get in. Alright, so I'm gonna start as usual with a clean sheet of paper. This is not really 100% clean. That's because I like to get the most use out of every sheet of paper that I use. So this is an old marker underlay, as you can see. I think this was the A-Team van. So anyway, first of all, when we're sketching cars, first we gotta decide what kind of car we want to sketch. That's the first step. So do you want to sketch a sports car? Do you want to sketch a van or an SUV, sedan, or whatever? Hatchback. So for this specific video, I'm gonna show you coupes or coupes, because two doors, because that's what I like to sketch. It's simple, as simple as that. So then we need to figure out, is it a front engine car or is it a mid-engine or rear Porsche-like car? Because that's going to determine where the A-pillar goes. So if we have, for example, let's say I'm going to use this paper and then I'm going to clean it up on this. So this is just for the rough sketches on this one. So if we have a front engine car, I want to put out the wheelbase first. I'm going to go through this distance as well. So you want to have, I think it's 3.5 wheels in between the axles of the car. So if we have a front engine car, that means that the A-pillar that means that we have the engine in the front here, right? So that means that we need some space for the engine to sit and not intrude on the greenhouse and the space inside. So we gotta have a longer hood. Something like that. And then the A-pillar is going to start somewhere around here. And that's at the earliest it can start somewhere around here, which is about 1/3 or 1 wheel behind the front axle. And then from here we can start the greenhouse. And it goes down something like that. And then at the rear you can basically design it as you want, because there are not a lot of mechanical stuff as much you need to take into consideration in the back as it is in the front, because of the engine, obviously. And then you have the of course the wheelbase right here, and stuff like that, the basic stuff. Another thing to keep in mind, this goes for both front engine and mid-engine and rear engine cars, and basically any car that you're sketching or vehicle, is that you want to have the highest point of the greenhouse be where the passenger or the driver is going to sit and where he's going to have his head. So the highest point on this should be somewhere around here. Like that, because his head is going to be right here, or his or her. And of course, if you design a car, you want to make it as ergonomical as possible, and you do that. That's one of the key features. You want to have as much headroom as possible. So you want to keep the highest point of the car should be right above the driver's head. So this is a front engine car right here. Let's just put that out. Front engine, like that. And if we have, so let's say we have a mid-engine car, so let's say it's a Lambo or a 458, 488 Ferrari or something like that, The big difference here is where the A-pillar starts. Let's put out the wheelbase again. Not going to put in the wheels in between because I did that on the top. The baseline can be the same. But now we can, since the engine is somewhere around here, so block like that, V8 or V12 or whatever, that means that we can start the A-pillar much sooner. And you probably have to if you want to have it a proportional looking car and not have it look all kinds of weird. You want to have the A-pillar, the start of this pillar here, you want to move that forward to almost at the end of the front wheel. So that would look something like this. Almost a continuous line from the hood that transforms into the greenhouse. Now you can dip it. You can also dip it a bit earlier like that. Same thing in the rear. You kind of have to think about the engine being there. So this part is probably going to be a bit higher than the C-pillar on a front engine car. So as you can see, this is more of a Lambo silhouette, and that just comes natural since that's the package of the car. You have the engine in the back. And go something like that. But the same thing here though. You still keep the you still want to keep the highest point of the car being right above the head of the driver. And in this case, if we have a mid-engine car or a rear-engine car, that means that this point here is going to be pushed forward as well. So the whole greenhouse and the whole, like from the A-pillar, everything is going to be pushed forward. And that's important to think about when you're sketching cars like these, because it's these rules, if you want to call them that, they're going to help you get the proportions right when you're sketching. So this basically turned out to be a Lambo, pretty much. And then we can add the ground shadow like this. And we can do that on this one too, just to keep it consistent. Just add it real quick like that. So that's the first part to think about when you're sketching sports cars in this case, is to what kind of car do you want to sketch? Is it a front, mid, or rear engine car? And based on that, you kind of sculpt the geometries of the car with the engine placement in mind. So that's the first thing I want to talk to you about. The second part is basically how to get cars right in perspective, because I know that's a big issue, and it sure was an issue for me for a long time. So I have two different ways of sketching a car in perspective, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do sports cars. One is starting with an ellipse. As you know, I love ellipses, and the width of the ellipse is going to determine the perspective of the car. So the longer and narrower the ellipse, the more of a side view I'm going to have, and the shorter, the more of a rear view. So the ellipse kind of determines how the angle of where you're going to be looking at the car. So let's say we want to do more of a side view car. Then I'm going to start with a longer ellipse like that. First thing I want to do is to put out this is going to be pretty rough. I'm not going to worry about line quality and stuff like that in this video. And as you can see now, we kind of have already right now, we kind of have the proportions set out here. So what we need to do now is just to sculpt this ellipse into what we want it to be. So we don't want this part. We can subtract this part of the ellipse and kind of make it dip down like this into a hood. And at the rear, we can add some to this, like that maybe, and just cut it off, something like this. And then we just have it follow the ellipse, the end of the ellipse here, just make it go down like that. And there we have something we can work with here, just from doing these tiny changes to the initial ellipse that we put out. And from here, you know, we can go into details and just start to do the rims if we want to do that, or pretty much start to design the styling of the car, what we want the rear to look like. Maybe we can have it go down like that. Maybe even make a, let's see, we can make a side scoop or side vent going something like this, because why not? It looks kind of cool. You know, that's the first way of sketching that I like to sketch cars, is to just start by a simple ellipse. And if I want to sketch it more of a rear view, the only difference is the width of the ellipse. That's all that changes. So then I would start with a more of an bubble like, I guess, and more of an egg shape. And of course the wheels are gonna get narrower too, because we're looking at it from a rear, more of a rear view. That means that the wheels are gonna get narrow as well. So put that out like that, and then you want to just mark where the end of the car is gonna be. So it's gonna be somewhere around here. So I just like to put something out there like that. Very simple. And then we do the exact same thing that like we did up there. We're just gonna subtract the parts of the ellipse that we don't need. And for the rest, we're just gonna use the ellipse as a guide to to get the proportions right. Just putting out the wheels just because it looks cool. So here we have the greenhouse. Now we see that this ellipse here is going to be too short. If I cut the car here, it's going to be a very weird looking narrow car. So I want it to be more wide. So I'm going to continue the greenhouse beyond the point of the ellipse, where the ellipse ends, and then just dip it somewhere there instead. Then we can have the same kind of design as we have in the top, and have it chopped down like this. And from here, we're pretty much set now. We have the basic proportions in place, and now we can start to have some fun with this. So this is the hardest part, is to get to this point, and I realize that because I was struggling with this for years. So I know how hard it is to get to this point. It's not easy. It might look easy, but it's gonna take you a lot of practice to get it right. Unless you're a super genius or something that gets it right the first time. But for me, you know, I've been sketching for I don't know how many years, probably 20. I mean, I'm 32, so I've been sketching for 30 years, and so let's say it took me 30 years to figure this out. I started sketching when I was 2. Just to keep the math easy. I'm really bad at math, so it's gonna call it 30 years. Something like that. And what you want to do from here as well, or something that I like to do, is to put out a center line for this, because it's gonna help guide you in your sketching and just help you figure out where to put stuff symmetrically, just to have a guidance to where you want to put stuff. That's why I want to put the center line out there. Let's see how these taillights go. large taillights, maybe too large. It's all good. And we can make a something like that. So that's basically the first way of sketching cars, is to start with an ellipse. I think this is super useful for anybody, especially to get the proportions right. You want to get, as soon as you get the proportions right, the rest is, you know, easy, because then you have everything in place, and that's when you can start having fun by starting to design a car. So this was the first way of sketching a car. The other way is pretty much the same thing. It starts with just putting out the line like that, and then you put out the wheels like that. And the difference here is that this is probably even faster than the ellipse because you're using fewer lines. But the thing that's going to determine the angle on this one is this distance here, from here to here, and this distance, this width. So the width between the wheels. So if we do another one, for example, let's do it over here, and I narrow this down, I kind of shrink everything together, then you see that we're gonna have more of this view than this view. So this correlates to this, and this correlates to this one. Same thing here, I'm just gonna put out a end point, and when I put this out, I kind of see if it looks right in proportion wise. That's what this little dot does for me. And then we're just gonna do the same thing here. Put out the wheels to start with to make it look cool, like that. And then just go crazy. If we want to make a, we can even make a front view out of this, maybe. You know, something like this. And boom, we have a, looks like a Lotus or a Lambo front view. And yes, I'm gonna put out the side views here. I know, it's crazy. I'm going crazy today, even putting out the side views, side mirrors. And now we have the proportions here as well. So we're ready to start go in and go have some fun with this, design it, put out the styling features and whatever you want. Once we have the proportions right. Very, very simple looking car. Don't need more than that. Same thing on the down here. Do the exact same thing as we did with this one. Although now we don't have the guide of the ellipse, but we can still figure that out as we go. I would recommend starting with an ellipse for sure, because it's easier and you have more guidelines to go with and to help you understand where to put different lines. So that's the main reason to start with an ellipse, is because you kind of get the greenhouse for free with the top part of the ellipse. So that's about it, guys. I hope this was useful to you. I'm gonna add some markers to these just for fun because they kind of look cool, and I want to add some markers to them now when I did got all this far. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really hope it helps you out sketching cars. It really comes down to keeping it very, very simple and having a few basic rules that you keep in mind when you sketch cars. For example, the height of the car should be above the driver's head, where the engine is, where the A-pillar starts, and basic stuff like that. And when you practice those things over and over, and you look at different sketches online and you try to copy them, that's how you're gonna improve the fastest for sure. So I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you hated the video, hit the dislike button. And if you're new, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate that. And hit the notification bell. I think that's a thing. You gotta hit the notification bell to get notified when new videos come up or something like that. So that's about it. I'm gonna go ahead and put some markers to this. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.